We about to go a few rounds here, me and you, Space Time.
This episode is sponsored by Audible.
Soon Space Time General, he's gonna do just fine. I can't beat this rendering software, and there's no reason for me to yell at Space Marine, because basically the higher enrichment state that you get there, well, it does have a slightly better marginal system on it. The output has to correlate that across the board to really, once that burns off, it burns off fast and hard right back down to what the regular techniques methodology does to bring in college students to teach somebody to do a job that they're posted to do. Strip them down, make them wear a lock, and Pavlovian dog them is, yes, useful and interesting if they're not recruits. Obviously, past that point in time where they have signed on to actually do this inside of a system, because none of that stuff is really necessary. OG, he's supposed to be made in a particle accelerator here, and in the moment of the collision, yes, then that's a certain idea of training. But as far as senior officers, that are the only people that are going to be able to express that state in any general way, short of teaching somebody to do that to rip themselves down. Because we're kind of all based in FMA, right? That's a big time warping corpse out there that you really can't do anything about. It's kind of the crypto and the nature of this conversation of you paying attention to it. And you'll notice that this is from a few years ago. Relative to my timeline, I'm bringing that in because that's basically how you do that decay. It's coming from now to actually its most enriched hydrogen state at the base of that line, or whatever this line may correlate to that base. It's not really made up of any metal at this point in time. We're kind of in a middle phase of it, or we're really getting to the core of the iron in this thing. And in our star, being that hydrogen in those supermassive states are going to form the heavier elements, kind of polarized and opposite the adjacent by who wore it better in here sometimes.
Long ago, when galaxies like the Milky Way were still forming in the early universe. Today, they're found in the galactic bulge or in globular clusters.
And it would make sense given that tensor or that natural independent number in there for that limit system in there. Doesn't, I mean, generally they all got the name, the blood talons and the bunny squeakers or whatever it is that, kind of is going to call it. I can't guarantee that, but in the Imperium, Ultramarine kind of works. Iron Fist, fine, whatever. Death Incarnate, fine, whatever. I got a few of them.
And that's not for lack of trying.
Death Corps. Class D Miller over there. SCP Foundation.
They must have once existed.
Well, it's still a big one. If it is Betelgeuse, and Betelgeuse is still a first generation star, or first population 1 star, it's still one of those, and you get some red dwarfs like this that gonna burn out forever. But we don't live in that environment. We could say if Earth, and working that direction after she goes supermassive, red giant, and then collapses not quite to a black hole, on the order of hydrogen in that massive state, burns fine like that. But if it was over density, it just goes straight to a supernova faster, or given that range, it would burn, and spin's going to matter inside of there. So if hummingbirds are that core, and that's how we generate solar energy, right? That's how we take in the photochemistry and the optics necessary to be able to explain any mathematical frame. I'm graphing hummingbirds that come into the situation, solar storms, 4 hour nectar in tulips, earthworms dragging a leaf.
However, the light that burns twice as bright burns half as long.
Yeah,
and these stars burn so very, very bright.
You ever seen a Beach Masters?
Okay,
salty? What the hell?
The cores of stars are under extreme pressure.
And again, that would be that pressure in the environment. Generally, like I said, I don't. If you're going to use that recruiting model to the new Army's version, where they're not really implementing that because Vietnam had draftees, and to a certain degree, they're still in that territory of doing it like that, or separating the group that says, we do this very intentionally. There will come a time when we yell at you, but you taking your time about doing things, getting information, taking information is only so much more relative in certain degrees or situations where critical information is relative, because you'll believe that. You'll believe that that is critical. It's just somebody screaming at you, ain't that model. You put somebody at risk, it's kind of one of those models. Just standing there and assuming that that's that risk given that experiment's nonsense. You may not be worth it. You got too much enrichment in there, and as far as the pellet's concerned, it's going to burn you out too fast. Now, something to consider inside of the reactor core today. Like I said, it's good when you catch a new book or something, or new thesis. Next Spacetime video comes out, next Army video comes out. If I was back on news, I'd be watching news and doing that, and adding that bit of hydrogen particle to the system, or anything else floating around there, and it's going to work its way to the core. Yep, she's going to kick and mow, and might flash a fun color, or have an extra solar storm, or whatever. Black hole, right? Some gamma burst, Hawking radiation. I mean, it has to be to a certain degree. It's like, how do you detect Hawking radiation? Well, how does light escape a black hole?